Hello and welcome to English with Chris. Today's lesson is going to be probably what my students say is one of the most useful lessons that they've ever had. Today I'm going to teach you about some of the most commonly confused words in the English language and how to use them properly. For example, in the sentence, I have to finish the project blank 5 p.m. What word should go here? Should it be until or by? These are two of the words that my students always mix up and often just don't understand when to use until and when to use by. So if you stay tuned in today's lesson, I will explain the difference between these words and how to use them properly. So I have 10 pairs of words that I hear confused and mixed up the most often. So the first pair of confusing words I always hear mixed up are say and tell. So obviously these words are very similar, but there's also a distinct difference in how they are used. You can have a little think about it now, see if you know the difference in how to use these words properly. You can pause the video if you want to have a think about it. So basically, for say, we say something to somebody. And for tell, we tell somebody something. It's as simple as that. For example, I told my dog to stop eating my shoes. Or I said, stop eating my shoes to my dog. So as you can see, the words kind of mean the same thing, but they're used in a different sentence construction. So one more time, you say something and you tell somebody. Stop it. Yeah, my dog's still eating my shoes. So now for the practical part, I'm going to give you two sentences without the words say and tell in there, and you're going to have a think about which word should go in which sentence. My student blank me to give them less homework. My student blank give me less homework. So you can pause the video if you want to have a think about it. The correct sentences should be, my student told me to give them less homework, and my student said give me less homework. Congratulations if you got those two correct. There's also just a small exception to note in the rule that I've explained here. There are some things that you can tell. So you can tell a story, you can tell the truth, you can tell a lie, and you can tell a joke. And the next pair of confusing words are lend and borrow. These words are often confused because in a lot of languages, they only have one word for these two words that we have in English. Can you think about the difference between these words in English? So these words describe the same process, but it depends what the subject and the object of the sentence are for what to use. For example, if you're talking about getting a loan from a bank, you borrow money from a bank, but the bank lends money to you. So if we're talking about the process of getting something from somebody else, we use the word borrow. And if we're describing the process of giving something to somebody else, we use the word lend. Another good way to differentiate these words is by the prepositions that come after them. So we borrow from and we lend to. And now for the practical examples, I blank my car to my friend and my friend blank my car from me. So again, you can just pause the video if you want to have a little think about this. The correct answer should be, I lent my car to my friend and my friend borrowed my car from me. So the next pair of words that are often confused are so and such. You can just have a think if you know the difference between these. So both of these words mean very or to a certain extent, but they are used with different words that come after them. So with examples, I can say that she is so beautiful, or she's such a beautiful woman. So we use so when we only have an adjective after it, or an adverb, like she's so beautiful, or he runs so slowly. And we use such if there's a noun that comes after it. There can be an adjective there as well, so it forms what we call a noun phrase, like she is such a beautiful woman. And you also have to have the article there as well, like a or an. like she is such an elegant lady. Now there is an exception to this rule, and this is when we use the words much or many, or few or little before the noun. Then we use the word so to make it stronger, like I've had so many beers tonight, or our teacher gave us so much information yesterday, didn't he? So now for the example sentences. That was blank an amazing movie. I have blank few things to do today. The correct answer should be, that was such an amazing movie, and I have so few things to do today. Next we have at the end and in the end. So basically, at the end is used to describe a specific time for the end of something, and in the end is used to describe a conclusion to something. For example, at the end of the party, we went to get a takeaway. We couldn't decide what to eat, but in the end, we had fish and chips. Very British of us. The best way to remember the difference here is that we always use the preposition at for time, like at 7 p.m. I will cook dinner, and that's also used in the phrase at the end. So you just have to remember that at is used for time, and then in for in the end is used for a conclusion. So our teacher said he would give us homework blank of the lesson, but blank, he didn't give us any because he forgot. So you can just pause the video and have a little think about which phrase should go where. So the correct answer should be, our teacher said he would give us some homework at the end of the lesson, because that's for time, but in the end, he didn't give us any because he forgot, so that's like a conclusion. So the next pair of confusing words are hard and hardly. Now, obviously, hard can be an adjective, like the English language is hard, but we're going to look at these two words as adverbs because hardly is only an adverb and hard can also be an adverb. And as adverbs, these words mean very different things. So if you confuse these two words, it can cause a big misunderstanding. So I can say, I work hard, or I hardly work. Can you think about the difference between these two sentences? In the sentence, I work hard, this means that you work a lot. You work very diligently. You're a hard worker. However, in the sentence, I hardly work, this almost means the opposite. This means you do not work much. Maybe you're lazy or you don't want to work. So basically, the meaning of hard as an adverb means a lot or very much, and the meaning of hardly as an adverb means not much at all. There's also a difference in word order with these two words as well. With hard, this comes after the main verb, like I work hard. But with hardly, this comes before the main verb, like I hardly work. So it's very important to get the word order right with these two words, or it could cause a little bit of a misunderstanding. Now for the examples. She blank does anything when the boss is away, and the team really played blank in that match. So you can have a little think as usual. And the correct answers here should be, she hardly does anything when the boss is away, and the team really played hard in that match. So the next pair of confusing words are the ones that we looked at the start of the lesson, the little teaser, until and by. Now these are the words I think that I hear mixed up the most often. Basically, we use until to specify the end of a time period or the end of an activity. Like, I'm teaching you until 3 p.m. And we use by to specify a deadline for something. Like, I have to draw up the contract by next Friday. So in the example that I gave you at the start of the lesson, I have to finish the project blank 5 p.m. What do you think the answer should be here? Are we talking about a deadline for by, or are we talking about the end of a time period? So here we're talking about a deadline, aren't we? I have to finish the project by 5 p.m. Another example is, when are you in the country? Blank. I'm here, blank, next week. So the correct words here are, when are you in the country until, and I'm here until next week. Because we're just talking about the end of the holiday or the end of the trip here, aren't we? We're not talking about a deadline for anything. And the next one is a pair of phrasal verbs, take care of and care about. Now I hear these mixed up quite a lot, and usually the mistake I hear is I take care about her, or I take care about my children. This is nothing, this is not a phrase. It's either take care of or just care about. And the difference here is, if you take care of somebody, you look after them, you raise them, you teach them, you help them. Like you take care of your kids, or you take care of your dog or your pet. And to care about means that you have strong feelings for someone or something, or you love it, or you like it a lot. Like you can say, I care about my job, but you don't take care of your job. That doesn't make sense. Or I care about my hobbies. I care about football. I care about my friends. There's quite a difference in meaning here, so it's important to get them correct. Obviously, there are some things that you would take care of and care about, like you take care of your family, and hopefully you care about your family as well. You take care of your dog and you care about your dog, but there are some things where you cannot use both of them. So for some practical examples, I blank politics a lot because it's very important, and I blank my grandmother because she's very old. You can pause the video as per usual to have a think. And the correct answers here should be, I care about politics a lot because it's very important to me. And I take care of my grandmother because she's very old. The next pair of words I hear mixed up very often are another and other. The difference here is pretty simple. We use another before singular nouns, like, can I have another coffee? And we use other before plural nouns, like, the other coffees are ready. And a good way to remember this is, we always use the articles a and an before singular nouns, don't we? So we've just combined an with other to create the word another. So if you remember that an is always used with a singular, then you can remember that another is always used with singulars. So some examples now. Can you teach us some blank words, please? Or can you teach us blank word, please? So the correct answers here should be, can you teach us some other words, please? And can you teach us another word, please? So my next words are raise and rise. These look and sound very similar, so I can understand why they get confused. And they mean very, very similar things as well. They both mean an increase or to go up. However, they are used in slightly different ways. So basically, raise needs a direct object after it, like the student raised his hand to ask a question. So it's when something forces something to go up, like the student forced his hand to go up. Whereas rise does not need a direct object after it. This is more like when something naturally goes up, like the sun rises in the morning. Also, in terms of the verb forms, raise is regular, so it's raise, raised, raised. Whereas rise is irregular, so it's rise, rose, risen. So for a practical example now, we blank the flag when the sun blanks. So the correct words here should be, we raise the flag when the sun rises. So we raise it, we force it up, and the sun naturally goes up, it rises. My final pair of confusing words are to and either. So a mistake I often hear here is when somebody says something like, I don't like sushi, and somebody else says, I don't like sushi too. Now, this is a mistake. So we should use to in a positive affirmative sentence, like, I like pizza too. And we use either in a negative sentence, like, I don't like sushi either, because it's horrible. The difference here is pretty simple then. To for positives, either for negatives. For example, I really like Chris's lessons. I like them blank. The correct answer here should be, I really like Chris's lessons. I like them too. And for another one, I hate it when it rains. I hate it blank. So the correct answer here should be, I hate it when it rains. I hate it too. So you might be thinking that should be either, right? No, because even though hate means something negative, technically it's not a negative sentence because it doesn't use a negative like not. It's a positive sentence. So I hate it when it rains. I hate it too. If the sentence was, I don't like it when it rains, then it would be, I don't like it either. So you have to be careful with that. Is it actually a negative sentence or is it just negative in meaning? So that concludes my lesson on commonly confused words. I hope you enjoyed it a lot and found it useful. And as usual, if you want to really correct these mistakes that you're making a lot, you just have to use them a lot and repeat them. For example, if you're always mixing up until and by, you have to think of sentences using both and keep repeating them, keep saying them until your brain becomes programmed to say them correctly. Thank you. Cheers.